Hi, people, and welcome once again to another episode of Healing Families with Pastor Zandi. I'm excited that today we're going to be speaking on a subject that, for the most part, we are not excited to speak about in public, and yet it has a lot to do with the health of marital relations. We are going to be speaking on sexual intimacy. It is taboo, especially in the Christian context, to speak explicitly about this. And yet, contrary to popular belief, God is not silent, neither is the Bible silent on matters of the bedroom. In order for any relationship to be healthy, one of the pivotal parts that need to be healthy is that of sexual intimacy. In speaking about sex, I want to start off by explaining that it is different for the different genders. In other words, if you are male, it is a very practical, it is a very physiological activity. And yet, because women are holistic in their approach, it is not a purely physical thing. So while a man will have sex because they're aroused and they just want to be intimate with someone, women will more often than not be sexual because of emotional feelings. They feel that they love you, they feel appreciated, they feel they want to please you. And that is a different motive altogether from that of the male. Again, there's also a very serious line of demarcation in how we are created physically. Men are aroused and ready to be sexually intimate within 5 to 10 seconds. Women, on the other hand, take 5 minutes to 20 minutes to become ready to engage in the sexual act. Now, that presents a problem because you are supposed to be having sex with someone who takes way longer than you to be ready. Today, I want you to know that there are truths that you learn that cause you to be fulfilled and to be able to provide pleasure and fulfillment for your spouse. The Bible speaks about sex being created not only for procreation, that is having children, also created just so that you give pleasure and you are able to receive pleasure. I'd like to first address the fallacy that sex is about men and pleasing men. It's not true. Women were created with a desire to be intimate. When you are healthy, you are able to actually get to a place where you also want to enjoy sex as a female. And so it is very important, especially because when we're married, we're supposed to be sexually intimate for the rest of our lives, exclusively with each other. We're not supposed to have other sexual partners other than our spouse. So it becomes very important to have a healthy, growing sexual relationship. If you're not happy in the bedroom, it spills over to other areas in your life. Sex is also used for bonding. Sexual intimacy is what causes people to become closer and closer to each other. When the Bible says the two shall become one, a lot of it takes place because you are engaging in this sacred act that is exclusive to just the two of you. It bonds you in a way that is unique from any other relationship that you might have. There are so many things that we share with other people in our lives. We have friends that we share companionship with, maybe sometimes even secrets with. We have so much fun with other people. Maybe we have people who cook for us, who clean for us. We share ourselves in a lot of different ways. But the only thing that is unique to the marriage covenant is sexual intimacy. That means that in order for the marriage to stand and be healthy and well, sex must be not just exciting, but pleasurable for both parties involved. The biggest problem that I've experienced as a counselor for many years now, the biggest problem that I have heard people talk about is that they do not know enough. And because we are so mum on this subject, they don't even know where to go to get knowledge. So what happens is people will get themselves in horrid spaces where they're watching pornography, and pornography is very unhealthy for the marriage for many reasons. Maybe I will take the time at some point to just delve on how destructive pornography is. The Bible talks about how we're not allowed to even look at the nakedness of another. So, and also you contaminate your marriage bed, and yet the Bible speaks in the book of Hebrews about not contaminating or keeping your marriage bed pure. You can't bring other people. You can't watch other people to get aroused and then engage in sexual acts with your spouse while you are thinking of someone else. It's already unhealthy. It's already unclean. So pornography is a no-no. It's not where you need to go in order to bring healing to your marriage. It actually serves more as something that becomes addictive. And like any other addiction, it escalates. What you were able to use to become aroused, or to bring excitement in the bedroom, it becomes, it's not enough. After a while, you need to get more. It needs to be more vile. It needs to just, be crazy. And it really perverts the marriage, and it has destroyed many, many marriages. So if you were amongst those couples that watch pornography, I want to encourage you to get clean of that thing. It is destructive. It's taking away. That's why you expect from your spouse what your spouse cannot do, because it's unrealistic at the same time. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk in the simplest way about sexual intimacy in the marriage. I will talk about it in 3, or let me say 4 phases. First of all, there's the phase of foreplay, and foreplay is what you do before the act itself. So foreplay for women includes those text messages that you are sending in the morning. I know it seems unrelated, but that romantic text message, those flowers that are sent to the person, that beautiful tone of voice, all those things are the things that minimize the time that is required before a person can be so open to you that they are ready or prepared to be sexually intimate with you. And then, of course, on the physical level, foreplay is about kissing. And, it sounds basic. It sounds like, oh, kissing is natural. You don't need to learn how to kiss. But it's amazing how people are not doing it the right way more often than not. One of the most important things when we talk about sexual intimacy is that you need to know that you need to be so comfortable with your spouse that you are able to express exactly what you want and how you want it. If you are not comfortable with saying what it is that you don't like someone may be French kissing you, and then they are sucking too hard on your tongue and it's just draining the life out of you. You're feeling very uncomfortable and you are not expressing that, it becomes a problem. You need to be able to say, please do not suck on my tongue like you're sucking on a lollipop. I'm very uncomfortable with that, I know it sounds basic, and the assumption is that people know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. The only way someone is able to give pleasure is if they are able to know what they're doing right and what they can do to improve on what they're doing. So you need to be very communicative. So there's kissing, there's touching all over the body. It's important for you to explore each other's bodies and get to a point where you know what areas bring the most pleasure and excitement when you are going to be sexually intimate. The more time you spend doing that, the better, because then you get to understand that sex is not just about penetration. It is really about giving pleasure and receiving pleasure and bonding and spending time together, exciting and arousing each other. So that is a very important part of sex, what you do before. Don't just be in a hurry to penetrate and, go into thrusting. That's almost the climax of the sex act. You start off with foreplay. If foreplay is done correctly, naturally, each body of the male and of the female begins to secrete juices, or is able to, you are able to be sexually ready for penetration with as little friction as possible. It is natural that when you are aroused, then your body is able to produce certain fluids that minimize the friction. So then penetration has to take place after that. When penetration takes place, again, do not penetrate and then immediately start thrusting. Thrusting is the in and out movement of the penis into the vaginal passage. It's very important that you don't immediately start doing that, because when you do that, then you heighten the level of excitement. And what then happens is you might climax too quickly before your spouse is actually satisfied, or they are able to climax together with you. So once you have penetrated, it becomes important to then continue doing things, understand your spouse, understand what brings pleasure to them, and continue to do that instead of thrusting. Talk to your spouse, be communicative, even during the act. If you are enjoying it, let your spouse know it. There are sounds that we call sex sounds that you make because you're indicating that you are enjoying it. And they actually are part of what enhances the whole experience. So if you are reserved, you're not going to have the experience that you actually desire to have. After stage 2 of penetration, I said after you penetrate, you don't thrust. You only start thrusting when your spouse is actually also wanting that from you. And more often than not, they'll indicate that they are ready for that. And of course, thrusting, like I said, results in heightened excitement, which then leads to stage number 3, which is the climax or orgasm. Orgasm is when the body expels certain fluids from your genitals that then results in a spread of pleasure to every part of your body. A lot of times people are so excited that there are so many different things that will happen at that stage, but physiologically you'll see that you might see the white of the eye. There are certain sounds that the person might make that they were not making before, and they seem to be erupting naturally without them. It's almost an involuntary action because of the pleasure that they're receiving from you. It's unfortunate, but a lot of people have never experienced orgasm, so you might want to describe it like I'm describing it, and someone will say to you, I've been married, I even have children, I've never experienced anything you're talking about. A lot of times it's because the person has not experienced sex with someone who was willing to wait for them, was willing to be patient, and was willing to love them enough to grow in how they are engaging in sexual activity with them. It is very important and to be intentional about it. Of course, on this show, we're not able to go into the very depths of the act. I'm just sharing the basics so that you are able to see whether or not your marriage is healthy when it comes to your sex life. The last stage is what I call the aftermath, after you have climax. The best way to climax, of course, is for the men to climax last. The best way to climax is for the woman to climax first. So if you have practiced the art, you get to where your wife always climaxes first. Why? Because she has the ability to have multiple orgasms. Men, as soon as you ejaculate, you lose your erection and there cannot be activity after that. It's different for women. We are capable of having multiple orgasms. Again, most women don't know what I'm talking about because men are selfish in how they do it. They are very quick to try to satisfy their own needs. So because a woman is generally much slower, you find that they never experience heightened sexual pleasure. So I'm asking that men give themselves time to learn to withdraw themselves. One of the biggest problems that I've found I needed to speak about in counseling is that the problems of early ejaculation. Early ejaculation is a result of, first of all, thrusting prematurely. It's also a result of infrequent sex. If you are not sexually active frequently, obviously you're going to be very excited on the rare occasion that you are engaging in sexual activity, which means you are supposed to be having frequent sex so that you are able to hold out as long as possible until your wife finds pleasure. Another thing is sometimes people don't know the science behind the human anatomy. If you find that you are always ejaculating early, you may want to pull out of the vaginal passage and pinch the head of your penis. And I'm not talking about pinch like a baby pinching like this. I'm just talking about just a small pinch, because naturally then the excitement or the flow of the semen starts to flow back when you do that. And just taking that moment to do that may mean your wife is going to actually climax together with you or not. So it's all sorts of things like that that you're not aware. You can't also just be doing the same thing, maintaining the same position. Sometimes just shifting and experimenting, trying a different position gives you the opportunity to also slow down your excitement and almost start the experience again from scratch, and you are able to hold out much longer so that your spouse has also climaxed together with you. Now, the aftermath is just about cleaning each other up. I think it's always best if spouses clean each other up after the act, because sex can be a bit messy. And then they also take time to just speak words of affirmation, encourage each other. This is what I felt about the experience. Make a person feel secure in their sexuality and how they performed. Don't say mean things. It never results in anything positive. Just try to be kind in what you say. That doesn't mean you are not allowed to express clearly that, when you tug at my ear, it has a counter effect. What you want is not happening when you are busy rubbing on my ear, or when you are busy tickling my toes, or whatever it is your spouse is doing, trying to excite you that you really don't like. You need to be able to say, my love, we really need to not do that. It's better when we do A, B, C, D, and then that will help enhance your sexual relationship. But affirm each other, clean up well, cuddle if the other person needs that, and I believe with all my heart that it will be a sexual experience that is fulfilling for both parties. As we come to the conclusion of our segment today, I want to encourage couples to please engage in sexual intimacy frequently. The health of the marriage is dependent on how we are able to bond sexually. The more we are able to be sexually intimate with each other and fulfilled in the bedroom, it then is able to influence how we communicate with each other and the general mood around the house. In houses where there's a lot of tension and friction and couples are fighting, more often than not, the problem is that there is not enough sex that's taking place. The Bible speaks about how when you are married, your body is not your own, and the body of your spouse is not his or her own. I want you to understand that it is wrong for you to withhold sexual pleasure from your spouse. The reason we're seeing so much unfaithfulness, so much cheating, is because there are spouses who think, as long as I'm not happy, I'm not going to be able to fulfill my marital role to my spouse. But that is wrong. I'm not saying you should be getting raped in your marriage, but I'm saying instead of holding out until it's time for sexual intimacy, and then all of a sudden you say, yeah, but you didn't give me money, or you didn't do this. It's not a tool for you to use to fight with your spouse. It's supposed to be a tool for you to use to bond with your spouse. Sometimes I have sex with my husband, not because I'm excited to do it, but because I'm fulfilling my marital duty and I want to please him. The love that you have will cause you to self-sacrifice at some point. What do I mean? I mean, as women, more often than not, we are not always ready to be sexually intimate, because biologically, there are times when our hormones are such that we are not excitable. It's just not easy to do it. But the love and the commitment that you have to your spouse and to the marriage institution should propel you to avail yourself. And lastly, if you have only been married 3-4 years, you really are supposed to be having a minimum of sex 4 times a week, in a week. If you have been married, these are statistics for healthy relationships. If you've been married between 5 to 10 years, again, you're supposed to be having sex at least twice a week. If you have been married over 10 years and you are able to have sex at least once a week, you are still not doing too badly. If you have been married over 20 years, like myself, if you are able to be intimate with your spouse up to at least 6 times in a month, you are doing well, and that marriage is healthy. I want you to go back and make a conscious decision that you will make sure that your spouse is sexually fulfilled. You will play your part. It is your role. The Bible speaks about how even when we fast and we are withholding sex from each other, it should not be prolonged, because the devil uses that opportunity to bring the strife in the home. So if you want your marriage to be healed, please make sure that you go back and you make sure that you make yourself available. Change how you look, change how you smell, be attractive for your spouse, and give it your best shot and see God heal your marriage. Until next week, God bless you.